Hi, Duncan. Thank you so much for coming and passing by our retreat, Inspirit Retreat. And yes, you've been such an inspiration. I mean, personally for me, I remember like on the day, like listening your music and the movie. Wow, it changed really my life and my perception of music. And so it was like 20 years right now, right?
20 years, yeah.
The giant leap, yeah.
Yeah, we went out filming in end of 1999, so it's the 20-year anniversary of it.
Wow.
And it had the same effect on me. It changed everything for me because we didn't really plan it. It just kind of happened in an organic way. Like we were just making music, and then Chris Blackwell made us the offer, and suddenly, boom, we were Grammys.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because right now we're teaching the students who are here 8 days with us, and we're saying like you can make your first amazing song in your room just using samples and all of the VSTs and all of these like instrument samplers. And so I'm curious because I've seen you using Ableton. I'm curious to know a little bit what's your approach to this digital world versus maybe the more analog world where you come from.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a very privileged situation, I feel, because when I started making music, I was first in the studios in the 1970s. So in the 1970s, there wasn't a computer.
Yeah.
So then the first Lindrum and the Oberheim came, and you had these little tiny windows, and you had to kind of make little patterns and chain them together, and there was no way of linking all the machines together. So then there was the hybrid where you have the tape machine and a bit of digital.
Yeah.
And then the 80s came and the digital got more powerful and the tape machine got bigger. And then the 90s hit when the tape machine disappeared and suddenly we went digital. So we've been digital for about 30 years now, really, in a way. But then it went completely digital in that the manipulation, you didn't have to record the sound anymore. And that's what you're talking about, really. It's like when you're in Ableton, you buy it and you get thousands of little sounds, big sounds, loop sounds. Some of you might not even know what they are, but you're constructing music in a purely abstract, kind of esoteric way, literally by the way something sounds, rather than putting a microphone in front of something and watching someone hit something or strum something or sing. It's literally just a menu. So I think that changes the attitude to the music that you're making, because it's all about association. So people may hear a shakuhachi and not know that it's a Japanese flute that you cross blow like that. They might just think it's a sound that sounds like it's something out of Blade Runner. And so they have that association with it rather than the association of a traditional classical Japanese instrument. So then I'm watching you teach in here how to put, I mean, it's electronic music you're doing, it's dance music. So there's some people in there who are songwriters, and so they're trying to work out how their art, where you're singing and playing the guitar, melds in with Ableton. And that's what I think I've made a real triumph at with One Giant Leap. Because basically, there's two stages to it. There's one where we go out and we collect all the data and we run around the world and we find people, musicians. And then the much longer bit is sitting at that little screen and grabbing in all the bits that you've collected and then using Ableton because Ableton has this ability, as you well know, to kind of make audio into fluid. It breaks it down into a part where whatever pot you pour it in, it's like water, it will fit into it. And that is that definitely didn't exist. I mean, that I think came about 10 years ago when Ableton first came. And when we were doing One Giant Leap, I always had to get everyone to play to a click. Because it was the only way that I could keep everyone, and I could correct things, but I couldn't do what Ableton could do. So now I can go out and record, like say you're here in Bali and you go out to record a gamelan band, and then maybe not used to wearing headphones, and you could just say, okay, play your thing, record it nicely, and then Ableton it, tempo it up and down, tune it up and down, and manipulate it in such a way that you can get what you want from it. Of course, what it is you want from it is another issue altogether. We were just talking about that, the intention behind why you're making music. I mean, I started making music because I just loved music, and I was the only way I could do it was to get in a band and play with other people. Now you don't have to do that. But mine was also quite financial as well. I knew that if I was good at it, I could make some money at it. And that's a bit more intangible now, because music it's very difficult to make money out of music. I mean, obviously Coldplay do, but then there's a big gap.
Yeah, I
You know
agree,
what I mean?
agree,
It's
I
like,
agree.
you know, and down the bottom, because Spotify don't pay royalties, iTunes pay a little bit more, but still, the money that is still being generated is not being passed through to the artists. So therefore, if you're 18, 19 and want to start living in a house and have a wife or a family and all that, the chances of you doing it out of music are really slim. So now I think music is going to suffer a lot from that because people aren't being drawn into the industry,
Yeah, for sure.
which is, I guess, what you're doing. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, yes, no, it's a difficult word, but I would like to go back to one thing that came to my mind right now. You are a pioneer of this like word exchange, music word exchange. I mean, I remember your music like India, England, all of these countries coming together to one song, right? It's something with super powerful. And I'm just like, want to go back to what you just said, like someone using a flute, he have no idea from where the flute is coming from. It just sounds good, right?
Yeah.
He's having access to this huge library of thousands of sounds. But I'm just thinking, at the end, he's going to choose the sound he likes for this track. And at the end, he's going to create something, maybe no idea of all the history behind it. Maybe he's more using it with senses, but he's going to do like an incredible, world collaborative music just from his bedroom.
But it's not collaborative. It is worldy sounding, but actually it's just and I think that's your fundamental problem.
I love that. Why?
He's sitting on his own,
Yes.
and you can only manipulate the sound as much as his abilities are. So therefore, maybe there's a shakuhachi, that was the example I used, where there's maybe an 8-bar phrase. Then he'll take the whole, and he'll take the whole phrase, but it's not. He hasn't actually collaborated. He's just taken it, and then he might change 2 chords underneath and put a beat to it.
Yeah.
But there is no collaboration, and that's what worries me about music when it's not in a group. There's been some really good interactions in there where people are helping each other with either adding guitar or singing, or even just going into how to structure it into a pattern, like the form of the song. That's collaboration. But the problem is often with people with computers is you don't actually need to collaborate because you can just be there, and that's a bit scary, I think.
So what does it bring to record live, to have the contact with the musicians and to add live element directly to your song?
It's a bit like the difference between making a phone call and writing an SMS. Like when you have a phone call, you laugh, you connect, you riff with each other.
Yeah.
There's instant bouncing. The SMS, you'll write something which they'll probably misunderstand. They probably won't laugh. They'll send you one back and you'll both get bored pretty quick.
Yeah.
So the conversation musically is, and that's beautiful. I mean, like I could go out here because I have an ability to make sounds with the guitar or the piano or my voice. I can go anywhere in the world and join in with other people, even if I can't speak their language or I know anything about their culture.
Yeah.
And music is that language. Music is like, they'll go, "Ooh, what are you doing?" You know.
Yeah.
I was out the other night. I was on the corner on here in Bali. There's at the temples on Tuesday nights, kind of thing. All the dads are up one end banging the gamelan things, and all that, which I don't understand at all. I love it, but it's a different tuning, it's a different thing. And then the kids and their misses are dancing and on their phones. So there's this whole thing going off. Now I was in one the other night, and there was this middle-aged guy, and they were hitting the thing, ding, 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 and he cracked a joke to the other guys on the stage. I didn't know, obviously I didn't understand the joke, but he played like 3 notes and smiled, and they all burst out laughing. And I went, wow, that's the language of music. It obviously, the cultural reference that he was making was something that maybe if we were singing a Bob Marley song or something, we might change the words or something.
So if I got you, it's something like, okay, I want to use the Japanese flute, but maybe find someone who is playing it even more, understands the instruments before using it, right? Understand the roots of it, what you can get from that.
I think so, but that's not to make anything. I mean, like making music can't be wrong under any. You know, I mean, if someone doesn't have that knowledge, I mean, like I went into films without knowing anything about making films, so therefore I made different films to everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is maybe good. I mean, that's what happened in the 90s when the sampling thing started and DJs became musicians.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about music, but they just knew what they had to do there to make people dance. So then, oh, boom, 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 that sounds good. Let's do boom, 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 and then boom, 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 and it kind of builds. So they don't know anything about music, but they know how to make the emotion go in the people to keep them there all night.
I have a last question. I'm very interested to know your idea about it. Is right now this like down tempo electronic music is basically connected the traditional music to this kind of base of techno music. Let's say like the boot and cat, like the kick, the snares, hi-hat. So we have like kind of these boosts, and over it we will have also all of this ethnic traditional aspect of the music. And I just would like to know, we are just doing like poo 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 of the kick, because the kick is myself. I'm using a kick. I'm using this formula. It's a formula. Let's say it. It's a formula
Yeah, it's a
with
formula.
working. So what do you think about that?
I hate it.
Okay, fair enough.
I find a lot of the music that I'm hearing without character,
Yeah,
because sounds have become instant and preset in a way that, okay, there's a lot of music that doesn't have any vocals, and I love vocals. I love people singing. I think the human voice is the most characteristic thing. Every single person, like their speaking voice, their singing voice is different. So as soon as you've got someone singing on a track, it has a character already.
Yeah.
So if you take that away, and then maybe if you take the nuance of an instrumentalist who plays a certain way, you take that out as well, and you've really got it down to a formulaic, computerized thing. Although its frequencies and its effect is really good, I just find it a bit impersonal. And I think that, I mean, that's why putting raps on stuff, anything that gives it, for me, the music alone is not really enough. It's like, again, from my time, Led Zeppelin, for example. I mean, when Plant wasn't singing, Page would be playing, and you could recognise it was him playing. And I just think that is missing often. You don't really know who's doing anything because it's all kind of sounding the same.
yeah.
Which, that's what I don't like. I mean, it's not that the quality is this or that. It's just, I think it's become a bit impersonal. And here's what I'm saying. It's the difference between having a phone call and writing an SMS.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you, Duncan.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you for inviting me down here. I've learned quite a lot of things about Ableton since I've been here and connecting with everybody. And it was great showing my movies to everyone last night.
Oh